Tapa cloth, or ngatu as it is called in Tonga, is cloth made from the bark of the paper mulberry tree. The inner bark is beaten into fine sheets and painted using traditional designs. After centuries of use, ngatu has literally become the fabric of Tongan society. In Tonga and throughout much of Polynesia, bark cloth has deep symbolic and ceremonial use. At birth, Tongan babies are swaddled in it. At marriage, newlyweds lie in their wedding bed, and at death, the departed are buried wrapped in it. Ngatu is the product of a highly collaborative process involving organizations of women called a kautaha. The women of the kautaha are involved in a process relatively unchanged since the time Captain Cook first laid eyes on these islands over 200 years ago. All the comments made in this film are the thoughts and words of the women from these kautaha organizations who have joined together for the making of ngatu. In Tonga, women's work is called hanga. Traditionally, the making of ngatu or tapa cloth has been one of the most important functions of women. This work is done in the falehanga, or the house of women's work. This weekly gathering is called the kokaanga. Each woman spends the week preparing and processing her share of the raw materials necessary to complete an entire ngatu. On this day, the individual pieces of bark are glued together and raised templates called kupesi patterns are rubbed into the cloth. Kupesi patterns are passed down from our grandmothers and commemorate certain events or decorative images of the important things around us. As the kupesi patterns are passed on one generation to the next, so follows the authority to make ngatu. A woman scolds a young mother for talking impatiently to her little child. How to raise a child or handle a husband are common topics of discussion. The falehanga is a place where women can talk freely amongst themselves. It is a place where a woman's identity within the village is solidified. The stability of the community and maintenance of tradition finds its roots within this weekly gathering. Without the kokaanga, tapa and its associated traditions would die out. Young daughters and granddaughters are brought to the kokaanga. They work alongside of their mothers and grandmothers and practice the skills necessary to be a good wife and mother someday. They will in turn teach their children and grandchildren. Each kokaanga begins with song and prayer.
Kamauka kamata ngā aue o ahon, o mau ke loto ate o tua whamorimore, ka ke tokoni mai, tuke mau ngā aka loto o taha, loto whio whaaki, loto merino, ke mau kau ngā whitaki nima, mau kau ngā aue, i he o whanonga o mau whai, i mau mani koeni. Tāpoi kina kotoa ki mau tolu, uma ae amanekina ke mau kamata ngā aue. Mau lotu ke whakaaki ke mea tāke au ke ai. Mau lotu kori kotoa enia, si sukarai speko alo, kako mau whakamui. Amen.
This organization is called a kautaha tō langanga. Each organization numbers between 20 and 50 women. Each group also gives itself a name. This group is called kautaha ha'mala. By working together in a cooperative setting, they are able to increase productivity. It is the way Tongan women bear what is called kavenga. The word kavenga has important meaning within Tongan culture. It is one's obligation to family and community. It is the burdens and responsibilities each member of the society bears in order to sustain the Tongan way of life. Mele Miko comes from Fuamotu, a village on the east side of the island. During the week, she prepares her materials at home.
Mele Miko, pagok fineki venu tau tutafaki, pagok mokopuna e umau. Ngau ke tutu
Mele's mother goes into the backyard to harvest the hiapo. Hiapo is the paper mulberry tree. It is the bark of the hiapo that is beaten to make ngatu. The act of cutting hiapo is called amusi. These are the last trees that are ready to be harvested. It will be another 8 to 12 months before any of the trees in this field are ready to be harvested again. After today, Mele will have to go to the market to buy bark until her Hiapo field is mature. The bark is stripped from the stalk. Mele's husband is embarrassed and tells her to use the knife, but she tells him, "I always use my teeth." The outer bark is separated from the soft inner lining. It is the inner bark that we use for making ngatu. Once separate, the inner bark is rolled up using a technique called whakate'ete'e puaka, and then unrolled and left to dry in the sun. Tutu is both the act of beating the bark and the name of the bark itself. Each member of the organization will work all week, so they will have their share of the materials needed to make a ngatu at the koka'anga. Beating the thin strips of tutu into wider, smoother sheets is a laborsome task. Hours of doing tutu can cause sore muscles and joints. In spite of this, the women have resisted technological changes that would replace this task. Each wooden anvil makes a unique sound. The combined sound of many women doing their tutu has a musical effect upon the village. The rhythm of the tutu reflects the health of the village. When there is a death in the village, tutu is forbidden. There are many uses for ngatu. We use it for bed sheets, weddings, birthdays, customary obligations, and funerals. It helps to take care of the family. In dances, it is part of the traditional dress. Sometimes ngatu is sold to raise money for a child's education or when cash is needed for other things. Dye for ngatu comes from the coca tree. Using a sharp metal scraping tool, Mele's husband Sione removes the bark of an older tree. Sione often helps Mele with the scraping. He also helps her with beating the tutu when she is tired or ill. The lucrative sale of tapa to Tongans living abroad has reduced the stigma of men doing traditional women's work in Tonga.
Whaatemene o ke mao hame peo ai le hang akau ke siale mohe no kirio vau peo te tuki tu no ai ke tatau ai ke hao e huhua ko aku lokula to ki whea ke maungau ke ngatu. Ka ko taimi ko lahi mate ko kai no vau. Pea maungai ak pe ai tangato hange ke tuitui au ke siale mohe taimeni mau ngau ak ki ngatu.
Moist scrapings of coca bark are placed on a foul mat so they can squeeze the dye from the bark.
Pesi. Now? Yeah. Mele goes to the market and sees that the hiapo, or paper mulberry tree, is very thin and small in comparison to the way the strips used to be. People need money now, so they go and chop down the hiapo trees before they are mature. Today, all the materials necessary for making ngatu can be purchased at the market. The price for raw materials has increased greatly in recent years. In 1980, a completed ngatu would sell for $50 to $70. In the 1990s, they sell for about $1,000. A growing business has developed for selling raw materials for ngatu. Many families now specialize in providing these materials for making ngatu. They may grow and harvest the bark from the paper mulberry tree and sell it at the market. Others specialize in producing the coca dye or selling beaten sheets of bark called vetaaki. People now purchase the materials that they no longer grow or make for themselves.
Kohoku lakanga koyangi. Ke ko whakarere o ngā we o ku talatalaki ia he kau whewhine kau tahame he kamataanga o Sānuari. Ke whaiha whakataha, ke whaiha whakotuutu, ai ngā aue o i tāu. Pea whaile wea whakataha ko ia, o ku ia e kau whewhine. O ku nau hau mei whamot, hau mei nakolo, hau mei hatafu, hau mei oau ki Kolovai, ko eua, o kuna uha o kau I he pea koe toko lahi o kau taha o kutoko ni mango fulu tupu. Koe lolo tonga koe ni e maunga au e koe ni oi ta uni, o hiva ni ma, ko whiunga e mo toko ni mau. Talu e ku fie kau ngā kau me kau whine eikio e taimi koe na ku mai ke kau tahani, o ku mahu inga lahi. He kuhanga he e kau whine me kau taha koe ni, o fua e ku hoku ngai whatongia lahi. Toko ni I he whatongia ki hoku whamiri, whatongia ki e ku ke whonua, pe ke siasi, o ku nauhanga toko ni o ngā wei ko pau ke mau whiala ak toko ni aki me kau whine o lawa ai fu ngā lahi koe ni, o fua aki ngai whati. Osko ea au whakatau whapaanga o fua aki. Pe kai ngā tahi paanga ka ku hanga he ngatu koe ni, o fua e mari e whanau, whai aho, koe putu, ki he mea ko toko toa. Ko no ui ngai mea ko whia kaua ke kau tāni. He koe te ulawa toko taha.
Ko na whai kehe, I he ngā taimi koe mo taimi mi. He na e koka anga ake e misi misi. Koe mahoa a tonga. Koe tō uia, koe mea ea kui koe tō. Pea I he taimi ni ia, o mauhanga e mātol o ai e mahoa a pālangi o tā o hange koe koe aho ni. Ko na whai kehe ia. Pea na e ia tata o he kau whine e ki he kuonga ko e. O tuku e ai whare, o mau hono mata o e kupesi, pea hono fofonga. Pea o sia pa toki whai aki ai ka ngai ka venga he taimi ko ia. Iyo, ka venga e lotu, ka venga e whamiri. Hange ko e te kātoanga mari, ko e te whai aho, ngahi mea pehe. Iyo, pea ke toi taha foki, pea ko e taimi nia ko whakapaanga. Nai kai whakapaanga ia taimi ko e kau whine e ki. Ai mau ngahi kui. Pea na e tao e puakai he taimi ko e. Ka nai kai ke aha puakai e tao he taimi. Mau ta e kai pepe ni iku o mai e maa. Moi foi ni mo tu o hihi o mau kiki aki. Ko ia. Ko me ai he taimi ni ko na whai kehe ia. Ko ia pe. Tuku ana uloi.
Koe toko taha ko ku tanga taha ko ke ngahi lao mo ngahi tutu uni. He koe kau taha ko ni o ku ai hono lao. Mono konistu tone lava foto. Pa ko toko taha ko to pe ku kau ki ai. Ko pau ke ne talango fua ka kato ki ai. Ko pau ke ka tahu ne mau e lao. Ko pau ke kai o ku whaatu ku ki ai ke ri mai pa angai nima. Se ni te nima noa ke aneri aki. O toko ni a ke he totongi e mau vai mo mau uhila e mau kau taha. Pea kai ai ha taha wano whainga tā maki. Ko pau rewa ke ha o rewa whakaha ke kakai nau mau e lakanga. Pea hange koe putu mo e ngahi mea pehe. Pea taha ku hoko ke ha putu mo ha whakatamaki he me mipa e kau taha. Ko pau ke alo e kau taha ia ki ai.
Ko ku whakaukau pe ke kaha o e koka anga. He kai pe ke te o sia he whanua koe ni. He koe me aia na e whao ake whanua ni e tau whahinga ngāu e koe ni tau hea ko tau ngai whamiri. Pa kua pau pe ke hoko ate ho tau moko puna mo e tau whanau o hoko atu he ngata anga mamani. Pea ko ku tui pe ia ki ai he kai te ose ngāu e ko ia heni. E ose pe tau tangata e whakaukau e mahe tau tangata ke hoko pe he pe o au ke pāanga ngalo taimi. Ko ku whakaukau pe ia. He koe ki tahini koe ni kuhuki ko moko puna ua ia. Pa taru na o mai ki whare mo ui le ko ngā ko ne mawhana. Pa ko kumari ko no ta uono ko fulu mātaha eni. Mo ne kafu fuatanga hoko pe ko ngā mo ui le ai ko tui pe e tau te au ia. Koe aonga e se mau koka anga ka mau tō.
Some men don't like their wives making ngatu because there is so much to do at home and making ngatu takes so much time. Members answer them by saying, "Don't get angry because I do it myself. If I don't make ngatu, then I will have to buy it from somewhere else." On the other hand, now there are times that husbands and sons help with making ngatu. There are many financial pressures on the family, and ngatu brings a good price at the market.
Iyo mo ni pake ngwa ke ko ka tu pa pa ke fi de mo de fika e to ni fo iwa ka pa nga ba tau si pi ka ni va lu fa e nga pe fi ne ko to pe ko ka ka ko na tu te o si ilo pe ko wa fitu.
This ngatu will become part of Hingano's dowry when she marries.
Pe tem gan nau. Te ke mania ina fa tutu pe pa fa hola te ni. Fa e tutu ke taimini ko ilo e taimini ku tuitala ke fae ne ako ya ke pote tutu. Kai ke te hata he taimini te maria he tutu me kokanga. Pa ko ilo pe talango fo ke fae ku e fae tutu. O me ku tokon la ka te he taimini ngatu. Tahine taha ka ku ana fae le ka tahine tokon la ka te he tutu. O ai ka tahine taha ko ke ya e fapigo piko tu. Ma pe kai ke na poto ke na lava fua ka na ka re ha taim.
O sai te tutu mo te tolanga ke ma wa te ngatu. Pe a taha ku o ke pata o ma wa te panga la. Te fami o fua ke te ka venga. O me a kotoa pe. Sa ia he tutu pa ku bave te tutu ka pa te tuko to ki ai pa